Before you watch this episode of our cityCURRENT radio show, I want to invite you to join cityCURRENT's e-learning and online personal development platform called GrowthCurrent. I'm Jeremy Park, host of the cityCURRENT radio show and CEO of cityCURRENT. GrowthCurrent is your exclusive ticket to attend virtual events with global thought leaders, national guest speakers, and experts who can help you grow personally and professionally. It gives you access to success secrets, lessons learned, learning modules, and so much more. Being online, you can join us from anywhere in the world. Subscriptions are only $8 a month, or you can do bulk subscriptions for your team. Check out growthcurrent.com to learn more and to join us in our efforts to power the good. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the cityCURRENT radio show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals, organizations making a difference, powering the good in our community. We're going to kick it off talking about travel. We have Memphis International Airport with us. Glen Thomas, he is the Director of Strategic Marketing and Communications, their PIO with Memphis International Airport. So Glen, how are you doing?
Doing great, and thank you for having me on today.
So we love having you come on because obviously Memphis International Airport is a huge part of our economy, a huge part of our travel. So let's dive in. Give us a little bit of just kind of where we are right now in terms of passenger count and somewhat getting back to anything close to normal. So where are we right now in terms of passenger count and just kind of getting our footing back?
Well, we're coming off a couple of weeks where we've screened about 21,000 employees and passengers each of the past 2 weeks, really in conjunction with Labor Day traffic. And a lot of that is really made up of leisure travel. Now, we're still down about 53% compared to last year. So the effects of COVID continue to affect passenger demand and air travel. However, we have seen week-to-week growth. We reached a low point in April of being down by about 95%, where the pandemic was at its worst and people just simply weren't traveling. So there are reasons for optimism. Another reason for optimism is that here in Memphis, we have continued to track well ahead of the national numbers. Same time period I mentioned last week, the national air traffic was down by 67% in terms of the TSA checkpoint screenings, while we were down by 53%. So by and large, our Memphis travelers have returned to some degree in terms of flying.
Give us an idea, because you've had some good news in terms of new flights. So talk about some of the recent announcements and the new flights.
Yeah, we've definitely had some reason for optimism. Now, again, to be totally candid, we've lost some destinations and we have lost some frequencies like every other airport in the nation and probably across the world because of the lack of passenger demand due to COVID. However, it is rather unique that we have been able to have a few flight announcements. Southwest has announced that they will begin nonstop service between Memphis and Phoenix, and that's coming up in December. And Delta has brought back Indianapolis and also Salt Lake City, began in August. And the previously announced Boston route has now been moved to January, but we're still optimistic that that's going to launch, and we'll see several Delta destinations return to Memphis.
Talk about, obviously with all the changes with COVID, but talk about some of the important things that passengers need to know in terms of just new protocols and just some of the different things that you're doing now with COVID.
Well, certainly COVID changes operations for just about every business, and in the travel business, it's probably even more significant. So if you haven't been to the airport in a while, you'll notice quite a few differences. Of course, there's the county ordinance. You need to wear a mask when you come into the building. Also, the airlines are going to require you to have one on in order to board the plane. So bring your mask. We do have extras at the counters if someone forgets theirs, but bring your mask. You'll see social distancing markers on the floor just to remind passengers to keep the space between themselves and other passengers and employees. TSA also enacting certain protocols, mainly involving social distancing and limiting touch. And one of the things TSA really wants us to push is make sure that you know what you can and can't bring through the checkpoint, because that is really their biggest hang up in terms of travelers who bring items through that are not supposed to go through the checkpoint, and it just causes some delays.
Give us an idea of, like, for hand sanitizer and that kind of stuff. Is that okay to bring through? Is it not? Does it need to be in a smaller container? What are one or two of the things that you think people definitely need to know when it comes to what items can go through the scanners and which ones can't?
So TSA has actually increased the amount of sanitizer that you can bring through the checkpoint. Everyone's used to the 3.4 ounce limit, but they've actually increased that to 12 ounces. So you can bring a fairly large container of sanitizer through your carry-on luggage.
Talk about when it comes to just, I know that we did a tour, a virtual tour, which was really cool. And one of the things mentioned was the fact that luckily the cleaning supplies that you were already using were approved for the cleaning in terms of being able to fight COVID-19. But talk about just some of the cleaning measures now and some of the way that you're doing things a little different in terms of just cleaning and processes with the airport overall.
Yes, we've significantly increased our cleaning and sanitation throughout the airport, really focusing on those high touch points. Also, TSA making sure that their area is heavily sanitized, regularly cleaned. We're doing that throughout the airport and anywhere where passengers are congregating and where we have those high touch points.
Yeah. Go ahead and talk about the modernization. It's a big deal, and I think it's one of those that when you look at kind of the timeline, it's really neat to see it already come into fruition. So talk about the modernization project and where we are with it right now.
Yeah, I think if you've been to the airport in the past couple of months, you're really beginning to see this project take shape. The modernization work has continued despite COVID-19, so we are still on schedule to open the new concourse in the middle of next year in 2021. And really the exterior work is nearly completed. So now the focus is turning to the interior. We're doing tasks such as installing metal framing, finishes, storefronts, also seeing the jet bridges beginning to be installed on the exterior. The apron pavement on the exterior has been replaced. So really you're beginning to see what it's going to look like when it's done because it's nearing completion from the exterior.
What makes you the most excited when you look at what this means, not only for Memphis International Airport, but for Memphis?
Well, it's really going to mean a whole new travel experience. You're going to have so much more natural light. We just commissioned a few local artists to create some artwork that's going to be included near the restrooms. We're going to have a hanging sculpture on the southeast portion of the concourse. So it's going to be a whole new travel experience with some new amenities, a music stage, a children's playroom. It's going to be a completely different experience for Memphis passengers. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, we had a chance to interview Yancey Viacavo and Jason from BRG3S and talking about intertwining and just what a huge story that is for Memphis to have local artists be a part of that hanging sculpture, as you're alluding to. And it's really neat to be able to see the renderings of what that's going to look like. And obviously the story that will tell too for visitors, not only leaving Memphis, but coming to our city. So really neat to see. Talk about on your end, when you look at parking and the perks and some of the other things you're doing, give us an idea of just how you're making it easy for passengers to be able to kind of get things back to where they need to be to travel with ease and convenience.
Well, it's taken a lot of collaboration internally, working with our airlines, working with our tenants, the restaurants, and I'm speaking more to COVID than anything else in terms of how it's changed our operations and how this continual communication is necessary for us to tackle this challenge on a daily, weekly basis. We still have a frequent parker program for passengers as they begin to return. It's called MEM Perks. You can find information on our website. It's free to join. You earn points by parking, and then you can cash those points in for free parking in the future. We have free luggage carts as well for those arriving or departing passengers need a little assistance with their luggage. And really, we're trying to make things as efficient as possible for our passengers as we work to restore air service and bring some normalcy back to the airport. We know it's going to take some time for some of these airlines. They've estimated it could take years for them to recover and maybe return to their former level of traffic. But we're continually working. It's a challenge that all of us, not just in the aviation industry, but across the world are tackling. And we're looking ahead to better days.
What's something that you've learned in this process, and it can be you personally or you as the airport, that you think is going to make you stronger coming out of this?
I think I think probably the biggest lesson for me is probably the importance of continuous collaboration. Also, the fact that you're going to have to adapt. This was an unprecedented situation for everyone, and so some of the changes that you think you want to implement, they may not work out. You may have to adapt. So as we see how certain changes affect passengers. One example I'll give you is how do we space people out, in the airport, the lines, do we add stanchions, and then you have this long zigzag line of people. So, some of those things involve more than just the airport authority. They involve TSA and the airlines. That's one example of how not only do you have to collaborate, but you also have to be willing to change and maybe change on the fly when these things provide us with some unexpected obstacles.
Give listeners a little bit of an idea, because I'm glad you mentioned kind of the collaboration, but I think it's also important to know the parts that you control versus the parts that are out of your control. So talk about what the Memphis Airport, and the Memphis Shelby County Airport Authority, ultimately, like, what your jurisdiction is, and what do you control on your end versus what listeners think you might control.
Yeah, and that's a question we get all the time, and we get lots of questions that we have to defer to other agencies a lot of the time. One thing we like to point out is the airport authority. We have about 300 or so employees that work for the airport authority. There are over 4,000 employees that work at the airport. We have multiple organizations, the airlines, the restaurant employees, TSA. We have federal employees, not just TSA, but Customs and Border Protection that run the Global Entry Office and our customs area for international flights when we have those. Usually those are seasonal. But it takes a great deal of collaboration in terms of we don't control a lot of these things. The airport authority doesn't touch your bags. You don't book tickets with us, and the airlines. Not only do the airlines handle baggage and all aspects of ticketing, but they also choose where they fly. We don't tell them where they fly, and we certainly give suggestions. We meet with them and we discuss our options. But in the end, passenger demand is going to control that. TSA manages the checkpoint. And we have a number of the rental car companies are independent as well. We do our best to, be a good conduit between passengers and those organizations to help them get the answers that they need. However, because we know that when it comes down to it, people just want to know where their bag is. They just want to get an answer on pricing, et cetera. So we try to give them as much information as possible. But there is quite a bit of segmentation of the responsibilities at the airport.
Yeah. Share, you mentioned the website. Definitely go ahead and mention it again and talk about the importance of this, because the website is really the one place where you can find all the information, because when it comes down to it, not all the carriers necessarily are on other websites. And so you aggregate literally all the flights that are coming, in terms of Memphis, to make it easy. So talk about the website and what you'll find on the website.
Correct. We like to say that flymemphis.com is the only website where you can find every Memphis flight. And as you mentioned, that's because some airlines such as Southwest, Allegiant to some degree, they don't list with the aggregator agencies like a Orbitz or a Priceline or something like that. So they may not be their flights may not be listed if you search for a flight that way. So we do have a nonstop flight map that shows the cities that our carriers fly to, with links to those the airlines websites, so you can purchase tickets if you want to. In addition to that, we've also got a COVID-19 information page. We realized early on with the pandemic, we needed a central resource where passengers could go get more information, about changes to our operations, air service, et cetera. So flymemphis.com/COVID-19 is the website. And we're updating that basically on a weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, because things continue to change rapidly in our industry.
Give me one thing that you think everyone should know, but they might not know, or what's something you want them to know about Memphis International Airport. I'm thinking, just fun trivia is that we're the #2 cargo hub in the world in terms of the cargo that comes through Memphis, especially because of FedEx. But give us something else that you wish everybody knew.
Oh, good point. You put me on the spot here.
Trivia with Glenn.
Yes. I think that most people know the significance of FedEx and how much of an impact they have on our local economy. But what a lot of people may not realize is that we are considered the busiest airport at night because of their operations, with over 150 flights just at night, each and every night. So they certainly are an entity that's crucial to our local economy and crucial to the airport operations.
We'll wrap up again, tell everyone the website and where to go to find all the flights, to find all the information for Memphis International Airport.
Yes, please go to flymemphis.com. And again, we have a COVID-19 page that will give you the latest information on changes to our operations and air service as well.
Well, Glenn, thank you for all you do. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.